All right, welcome back to Swayed Against the Grain. It's been a while since I have released any content. As everyone is pretty much aware, 2020 has been a bad fucking year. It's been a bad year for most people, for everybody. And doing this podcast didn't necessarily go the direction that I thought it would. It didn't even go in the direction that I think some of my supporters thought that it would. I thought that I'd have more content out by this time, but I haven't had the opportunity. I've had a lot of, as I was telling you guys earlier, I've had a lot of people, flake on me, people that I thought would be really beneficial for the conversation, for any conversation. But with all of that said, I am genuinely grateful for the two of you wanting to be on this, and I somewhat kind of massaged your brains into wanting to be a part of it, which I'm excited about. I think that the two of you have a lot of experience that that other personnel in the military would really benefit from hearing. So without, further elongation of my talking, if you could just kind of tell me and the audience who you are and what we're going to be talking about today.
I'm Alex Nose, and this is Austin Nose. And we're going to be talking about relationships that are dual military.
Yeah. All right. Austin, you got anything to say?
Not that I can really think off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
okay. All right. So, like you guys said, we're going to be talking about dual military relationships. And I think there's probably more dual relationships out there than we realize that there are. But when you begin a dual military relationship, it feels like there's nobody around to help you or guide you through that, right? How many years of service that I have right now currently is closer to 8 than it is to 7. And for the two of you combined, how many years of service do you have?
Actually, in October, it was 6 years.
Okay. What about you?
6. A little over 6.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of prompted you to join?
I don't have any good reasons. I don't have those stereotypical, save the country reasons. Just didn't like where I was, the job options that I had. And the military was just kind of like, hey, try this. You were in it. So.
Yeah. I joined, 2 years before you did?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, it was just something to do. And it's been really beneficial. But no special reasons. What about you?
For me, it's basically the same thing. Back home, you either get stuck in a warehouse or working out of your own backyard, basically. So
yeah,
I didn't want to be a part of that, and I also hate school. So
yeah, no, hey, that's a valid reason.
Fuck this! I'm getting out, and I'm moving somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So I'll say my side of the piece because I guess I'm the stereotypical person who joins the military. I wanted to do something better and greater than what I was currently doing at the moment, back in that time frame. And I got married to a civilian, right? And so that is the path that I think the normal service member does take. They marry the girl back home, or the guy that they went to high school with, and they just got married, and that was how it ended for them, or not ended, but began for them. So I'm really familiar with what it's like to be, married to a civilian who doesn't quite understand the ticks of the military and the training and the field problems and all of that other stuff. And that has its own problematic, entity of its own, right? Because a lot of times you come home from work and you find that you can't exactly express what exactly is going on, right? But that is not the case for the two of you. And I would kind of like for you both to talk about how the relationship began, and honestly the things that people told you not to do, which was to be in a relationship with another service member.
Yeah, be in a relationship with another service member. Don't get married too young.
In general, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So, what is it? 5 years ago, we met because we were TAD together.
What is TAD?
Temporary assignment duty.
Okay, and you both are Navy.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's Army watching, just understand there's going to be some acronyms you don't quite get.
Okay, so temporary assignment, that's what we were on.
Okay.
We were delivering parts to other commands on the base, and
Because what is it that you do exactly?
We're airframers.
Airframers
Yeah.
meaning what?
We work on aircraft,
Yeah, we maintain them.
parts
So-
of aircraft.
This job, the only connection to our actual job was that we were delivering parts.
Okay, so you airframers, and you basically are like, you know, like an AutoZone would have people that sends parts out. You guys did the
Pretty
same thing
much,
pretty
yeah.
much.
Pretty much.
They
Okay.
take you from your actual job for however many months they want to do it, and you do
Okay.
something completely random that you didn't join for, and then they send you back.
Okay.
So we were doing that. He was on his way out when I was on my way in. So what would we have, like 2 months together?
Yeah, about 2 months.
So yeah, we hated each other. Did not get along at all.
Why is that?
I think we're too much alike. I don't know.
A lot alike.
Um,
And I was in a really dark place in my
Yeah.
life at that time. So
bad relationship too
bad relationship,
with a civilian.
bad mindset about the world.
Go into that a little bit.
I didn't like who I was. I didn't like who I was with. I didn't like anything really, and it was
Yeah.
like just it was a really horrible place to be. I mean, that can go down a completely different rabbit hole there, but I took that out on everybody around me.
Yeah.
I was very fuck this place. I hate this. I hate that.
Yeah.
I wasn't like opening up my eyes to the beauty of everybody or everything around me.
Yeah.
I'm too young too to see it that way. What are you, like, just turning 20?
19.
Oh, that's right.
We
Yeah.
were babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were 19
Yeah.
and you were 20.
that's funny.
Yeah. She's an old lady.
It's funny because I thought that he was the same age because he kept saying I'm 20 because he was like,
Almost 20.
yeah, he
Like a
didn't
month away.
actually.
Because he was embarrassed to be 19.
I was.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, cool. You know, when we started talking, like we're the same age, and then his birthday hit, and he's like, I'm 20 or what, 19,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
I
I
was
was just like
turning
kind of
20.
like gag. You know?
Oh,
Like,
okay. So
Yeah.
so you were 20.
I was 20.
You were
I-
already 20,
I
and
was
you were
20.
18.
I was 19.
Oh, you were 19, turning
Turning
20. Okay,
20.
I thought it was 18 turning
But I mean,
19.
it was like a
Yeah, that was
month.
probably
It wasn't
21.
like I was like trying to pull the wool over your
No,
eyes.
no, but
Yeah.
I think that may have turned me away from it without
What?
it. In the beginning. If I hadn't really gotten to know you and I knew your age, I wouldn't have.
I mean,
But
there were
anyways,
many other things that would have turned you away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
so we didn't like each other
Okay.
at all. Didn't get along. Something switched, something flipped. He got out of his relationship, and then I swooped in.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how we started. A lot of negativity from other people, especially when you just join, you haven't been in for a very long time, and then all of a sudden you're in a relationship.
And you're 20 years old.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pause on that because that's so important to talk about, right? Like, so we all have those people who come in, for me, the Army, for you guys, the Navy, and we would call them like wet behind the ears or a cherry or a little greenhorn or something like that. And, you know, I think that by the time they come in, it's either 6 to 7 years that we're in and we're like bitter, right?
Mhm.
And we've been jaded a little bit by the military. So when we look at somebody, we don't necessarily think like, yeah, man, your frontal lobe is completely developed and you're going to be totally fine with whatever decisions that you make. You know, like I've had service members that have literally married strippers, you know, and not because they liked them as a person, but because they're like, I married a stripper because I wanted to, you know, like BAH.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I have no doubt that people looked at you guys the same way.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I got told often.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did too. I mean, we talked about it back then. Was everybody talk shit about it? Nobody is supportive.
No, actually,
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single person at my first command that was in any way supportive of a marriage.
Yeah.
So, and that's extremely common. I even
Yeah.
find myself now, like when I've been told, it's that first, like, dude, don't get married, you know? And it's not that we've had a bad marriage, it's just everything you see,
Yeah.
you know?
Love that. And then to me, I try to make it a point not to be like that. I try to, if they want to do it, do it. You know, I make sure they know. Like, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. Doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. And it's going to be a lot of work, especially at that young of an age, we found out. Because we're changing all the time. So,
Yeah, it's fucking tough to be married. Like, I always made the joke to my friends that like I can't even imagine being married to another service member, you know, because I was just married to someone who was not a service member, and that in and of itself was difficult. And you know, like going from my perspective, I honestly can't even remember like what was what was the initial reaction when you told me? Because you and I have always been. So I joined in 2013, and you joined a couple years after that, and we've always been about 4 hours apart from each other on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to meet Austin like the moment that you wanted me to,
Yeah.
essentially. But what was my reaction? Because I don't even remember.
To meeting him?
Yeah.
You didn't like him.
No.
No, it was actually really awkward. And it's funny because he almost didn't come that first time. Because we got into like a...
I mean, I'm an awkward dude anyways.
Yeah.
But
I think we were both really nervous about it. And it was
Yeah.
actually pretty early on in our relationship that I was like, yeah, come meet, my sibling. And I know that you were extremely like held back and reserved and like your interactions with him. And that look you have now is actually the look that you had with him like the whole time. Like, let me just ponder you.
That's funny.
I think it took a few times of meeting him and being around him before you started to kind of open up. And I think it was when we had already gotten married and we moved into an apartment.
Yeah.
And I remember you came down and visited and you guys got drunk and, it was like, oh, my brother.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny. So from my perspective on that, it was being in the military. It's like I spend so much time around these dudes and I know just how bad, like how bad some of these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this, I talk about it in other podcasts, like what we expect of women and what we expect of men and stuff like that. And so like there's this really preconceived idea of what men are like in the military and what women are like in the military. And so like you've got the idea, and I'm going to just say the most negative thing, because this is not the most, I'm not shedding light on any of the positive stuff, because like I'm your older, I'm your brother, I'm your older brother, so it's like I'm the oldest, so my idea of like who you should be with is always going to be a little different than what you may feel, at least in the moment. And obviously like we've all known each other for years now. You and I, we've known each other obviously for years, but yeah, I had the idea that like I hope to God she doesn't bring any man around that's like the guys that I'm with, the guys that I'm hanging out with, because I would be totally torn. Like how do I accept that you're with like a piece of shit, essentially, and then I'm sure that your friends were also like, well, we all know how pretty women are in the military.
Yep.
And that's like one of the biggest things that we do. We automatically demonize the other sex. We don't even give them a chance.
It's hard to, though, kind of when like, I can only speak for the military, but like when you see these, like you said, those guys that you worked around, you know how they were. We know how people in our community are with their significant others. It's they badmouth them all the time, just shit talking constantly, cheating, like a lot of negative things that like if I was on the other side of it, I would probably be like, who are you bringing around?
Yeah.
I think it's like a common thing for a brother to feel about their significant other, about their sibling significant other.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And honestly, you probably had like the last person I was with still stuck, like, are they going to measure up?
Yeah, that's another really good point, because, not only were you really young when you two met, but I was still really young too. So the last reminder that I had was the guy that you dated in high school, like pretty much all through high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up joining the Air Force. So it's like, I remember knowing him before he joined the Air Force, and then knowing him after he joined the Air Force, and knowing how big of a piece of shit that he was. I mean, it's not like you were without fault, obviously, but you were young, and it was difficult to, because I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. You guys drove down there, and I met you, Austin, for the first time, and I was like, this guy's way too quiet.
Yeah.
I did not like it. I didn't have a respect or an understanding of people who were quiet at that point in my life. Now I do, definitely.
Yeah.
But when I first met you, I remember being like, our dad called, and he was like, so what do you think about him? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. He's too quiet. Like, how is he going to, relate to our family? Because we're really loud.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw my family, we're really loud. But it's just, when I was coming into it, it was, didn't want to step on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
coming from a completely different mindset, completely different spot in the United States. And
Yeah.
it was like, I don't want to go in there hustling and bustling like everybody else does, you know?
Yeah.
It's not who I am. So
No, and I'm glad you didn't because, first of all, how long have you guys been married now?
4 years.
I mean, honestly, that's a pretty long time in the military.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I consider that a long time. So you've been married 4 years, and we've kind of been jumping around a little bit, but you've been married 4 years, and you guys met at your first duty station,
Kind of.
An in-between duty station.
an in-between duty
Yes.
station. Okay.
Yes.
So was there a decision point where you guys had to figure out like either we get married or they're gonna send one of us somewhere else?
Yes.
Part of it.
Yeah.
That played a little bit of a role. So his first command was sea duty. So what was it like? You had to be there for
5 years.
5 years. So
5
it was like a
years.
5-year billet.
And sea duty means that they deploy a lot.
Yep.
Deploy, yeah. So
Yeah.
mine being shore duty, I don't deploy, and that was a 2-year billet. So I was up for orders, obviously, pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
And without being married and having co-location, they can send me wherever they want. And it doesn't matter that we're in a relationship, So we had already talked about that we wanted to get married. It just we hadn't talked about it happening so soon.
Yeah.
And I put in for orders, and they ended up, I got selected for orders in Florida. So
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were, we kind of had that like, is it going to work if I leave? Is it going to work if I stay? Like how, trying to navigate that, which was hard.
Yeah.
But
And that's something I feel bad about now. We were talking about it a few days ago. If you had left for Florida.
yeah, I don't know. It probably would have been hard, really hard. And
I feel bad about it.
I would hope that we would have been like fucking mature enough and
I don't think I would have been mature enough.
So what is it that you feel bad about exactly?
Well, because that was what she was wanting to do at the time. And
yes and no. I did.
you know,
It wasn't that important. I wanted a change of scenery
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. So to me, it didn't matter that if I didn't go to Florida. I wasn't so like dead set on Florida. I just wanted a different command, a different place of working, different people. That was really it. So it did not bother me in any way to stay. Had it been like an option for overseas, I probably would have been a little bit more conflicted.
I would have been mad if you didn't go.
Yeah. It's good the way things turned out though.
Yeah.
It is.
And
But yeah.
and you guys are talking about like really serious stuff that nobody preps you for, right?
No. And I was telling you yesterday when we were, talking about getting married and I was telling people at work, like I was looking for a dual military relationship to just bounce questions off of.
So what were the questions that you had? Because just listening to this conversation about your original possibility of Florida, like some of the questions that I would have are, one, was it worth it for you to choose your partner over a duty station? And two, like, if I do go to Florida and I don't get married right away, what happens?
Yeah. Well, there's just like so many questions I had. Part of me picking orders and potentially going to Florida meant sea duty. So I was going to be deployable.
Yeah.
He still had a few years on his sea duty billet. So we would have both been on sea duty.
Yeah.
And everyone knows, like, at least whenever I was brought up in it, everyone knows that married couples are like alternate duty
Duty
rotation.
station. So
Yeah.
one's on sea and one's on shore duty. One doesn't deploy at all through that 3-year time frame, and then the sea duty person, they deploy generally
Yeah.
once a year.
Yeah, which is totally different to the Army because they don't care. We just have you're either deployable or you're not.
Yeah.
So when I first started asking questions, I had assumed that that's what it just was an automatic. You get married and that's what they do, but that's not what they do. If you have kids, that's when it's like, okay, there needs to be a rotation. But we could both be on sea duty at the same time if we put in for it.
It would
You know?
terminate co-location.
It would.
Yep.
But once you get co-located, they kind of want you to go into that rotation anyways, but
Yeah.
you don't have to. So when I was going into it, like, and I think at this point when I was asking questions, we were already married. Just because it was probably, I think it was like a fast thing into getting married, and then I started asking questions.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. You act, and then you're like, "Fuck."
Because like all I heard at the time was just like the negative stuff about it. Oh, you're doing it for BAH. You know, you're doing it for whatever reasons to get out of the barracks, which a lot of people do. So it wasn't like really off the wall to hear that. But no, I was asking people, should we be on the same rotation? Would it be hard if we were both sea duty? Should I stay here? Should I go to Florida? Should I go to the other command that they offered, which is the one I'm at currently?
Yeah.
And I was told, and I wish I had listened. And that's like the shitty thing. If anyone's listening to this that is going through this, they're gonna do whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what he says or you. That's the shitty thing about like learning lessons from all this shit.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to things that I wish I had listened to back then. I was told, stay on shore duty. I had the option to extend at my shore duty command for a couple more years. Should have done it. Because we spent, like the first year and a half to 2 years of our marriage, both on sea duty, and we were both deployed.
Yeah, and that I was hoping that we would get to this at some point during this conversation because deployment is fucking hard on a relationship. I have been fortunate enough to be here in your guys' vicinity when you, Alex, were deployed, and I've been here when Austin was deployed. And, you know, watching both of you struggle in different ways with it, it's been kind of heart-wrenching, honestly. You know, and I'm fortunate to be around to see these things because I get like a better understanding of your marriage. And then like I get a peek into like my brother-in-law and my sister in a way that I guess I never really would have gotten to begin with. But watching, I mean, your first deployment that you guys went through together, that was hard to watch.
It was rough.
Yeah.
You're talking about the first deployment where I was home, or
the first deployment while you were home?
Okay, yeah, that was
2017.
hard. Yeah, that was hard.
I think that's when you chose your orders to HSC 22 as well. I was on the boat.
Yeah.
When you decided to stay up here.
So, if you guys don't mind, would you talk about or be willing to talk about some of the fights that happened about orders and about deployment and about like some of the insecurities that come along with that? I'd like to just preface for any of the listeners that are out there, like, I vet all of the people that come on this podcast. I vet them heavily because I don't want anyone on here that is going to ruin my name or I'm going to ruin theirs. And neither one of you, I would classify both of you as extremely loyal, you know, like extremely loyal. And so some of the things that we're going to talk about that I'm hoping you're willing to talk about tug on heartstrings of those who may have cheated, as well as those who may be contemplating cheating, and as well as the definition of what we consider cheating, you know, because
it's different for everybody.
Exactly. It's really different for everybody. So with that going forward, your first deployment, talk about some of those insecurities.
Okay, so on my side, being the person that is home, I remember he told me a lot. It shouldn't be as hard for you because you have people around you.
Big mistake. That was not true
whatsoever. That was hard. That was an insecurity that like, okay, I'm by myself and I haven't been by myself in this situation, you know, being married before.
Yeah.
And then you have people at work talking about how they've cheated or they've seen people cheat, and it's something that everybody gets told or is like talks about. That you go on the boat and you have a boat boo, you know,
a boat boo.
That's what they call it.
Yeah. So you're just hoeing it up, you know, and I've seen it. I've seen people who are in relationships do it. He has seen it. At that time for me for the first deployment, I hadn't ever seen it, so it was like unknown to me. It was just hearing people talk. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I would tell people at work, no, I trust my husband. And well, you shouldn't. How do you know?
Yeah.
You know? And then so like, unfortunately, you have people saying things like that. So that created like a major insecurity for me. Like, what is he doing? I have no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's typical for people to have a boat boo. So I mean, like that really did not help my state of mind. And then Yeah, there's a lot of depression. So is trying to be alone.
Yeah.
Trying to deal with, is he cheating? You know, like my own confidence in myself. Because you kind of let yourself go. At least I did a little bit. Like he wasn't there to be around. So then like I started to not care because I was depressed. So it was just like kind of building on just more and more insecurities. It was hard to be the person at home. We had a lot of fights all around insecurities, not knowing what the other person's doing. It was hard for me to understand too, being the person at home, what it was like for him being out there.
Yeah, because you'd never done it before.
Never done it, no. So
I would say it was a lot easier to be out there. Now, knowing what I know now, being home for an extended amount of time with you gone, so much easier to be deployed.
Yeah.
Because your mind's on that. Not only that, you're not going to work, driving an hour to work, working mindlessly, driving an hour back home alone to come home alone and not know what to do with yourself, right? So like on the ship, it's you got a 3-minute walk at the most to where you work.
Yeah.
You go work for 12 hours. You got a 3-minute walk to the gym, 3-minute walk to the shower, and then get in your rack and it's time to sleep for 8 hours. So
and then on top of all that, you can't talk to that person every day. You know, you're lucky when you get to talk. It depends too on the type of boat you're on, or like if you're on a land debt or what's going on.
Yeah.
But that was another thing that was really hard for me being home. That for that first deployment, I couldn't talk to him whenever I wanted. If I missed a phone call, I was crying because it was like, I don't talk to this person hardly ever. The first time you called me, I cried. Like,
I think we both did.
Yeah, I was just so
I
excited.
felt like a baby standing there in the hallway with the
I was actually like back in like the office area of our shop, and I was like smiling and like, you know, crying, tearing up, trying not to be a little pussy about it.
Yeah, definitely.
No, you can't talk often.
Sometimes not at all.
Yeah. So like if you have those insecurities and you're trying to work it out, like trying to be healthy about it, you don't get much time to talk.
Yeah, and these are things that again nobody prepares you for. And if you don't have like a mentor that's been through this before and can be like a calming presence for you and your spouse, or just your spouse, you know, whatever, that's really difficult.
Which is like another thing that's really tough in the Navy, at least, is finding not necessarily even like a dual military couple, but finding a couple that they can be that mentor, and they're not going out there and hurting their spouse, and they're not going out there and cheating, and just they're good people. And we thought we had that a couple of times,
which is extremely disappointing. But
I can speak to that as well. I when I was deployed, which is funny because his first deployment with you guys being married was the same deployment that I was on. And I was in one place, and your ship was not too far from where I was at.
Right. We worked with the Army a lot out there.
Yeah,
too.
you did. So. And so on that deployment, also in 2017, I had a really close NCO who I just loved the guy. You know, I really appreciated who he was to me. And there was a day where he, I unfortunately let it get to me and get into my head. But he sat me down and he's just like, if your wife cheats on you, you have to accept that because she has needs and you're not home to fill them. And yeah, right. So and here I am. Like I wasn't young really. I mean, I was young, but I wasn't like 20 years old. But you know, the distance, it's already difficult to communicate, and it's already harder to figure out what you're doing, and that really did get into my head. And I, you know, another NCO that I had really appreciated and cared for, and he was like my guy when I needed like a solid rock to lean on, like man, I'd like to leave my wife right now, like, you know, I'm just so pissed off or something, and it was never actually going to do it, you know, but come to find out when he came back from deployment a few months after I did, he had admitted to me that he had been cheating on his wife the whole time, and it just sucked because it's like, man, you were my rock. Like I really, of all the people I would have expected to do that, it wasn't you.
And then that can create an insecurity too. Because then you're like, okay, I held this person up on this pedestal. Yeah. And then they fucking suck ass. And then now.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Whatever's into you.
It's 2020. People eat whatever these days. So.
Yeah. No, that shit is it's too common
Yeah.
to have, unfortunately, a mentor that is not necessarily aligned with the morals or goals that you have, but you think they're great, and then, yeah, just disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my experience on like the home side of it, but I don't know what you went through.
On that particular deployment, the deployment side, I mean, obviously there's insecurities. There's, especially when you're gone.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time when you're deployed. You've heard it, I'm sure. You've heard it. I've heard it.
Yeah.
It's-
Jody is gonna come get your wife.
And that's exactly what you hear. And
Jody's gonna come get your wife.
A
Yeah.
Jody
So
boy.
yeah, a Jody. So a Jody is basically you're out on deployment in dire conditions. Obviously, the conditions right now are not as dire as they used to be. Thank God, whatever God you believe in. But they call him a Jody, the guy that slips in the back door as soon as you're gone.
I've never heard that.
You
probably,
haven't?
probably because you're, the female so you're the female side of the house. So
Yeah.
for you, it's, no one would be like telling you, oh, look out for Jody. You
Yeah.
know,
You're the boat boo at that point.
yeah.
You know?
Okay.
You're the non-deployed boo.
I've heard
Yeah.
the Dear John with the whole Dear John letters, but
Yeah.
I've definitely not heard
That's a
of
real
Jody.
thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had plenty of sailors that have gotten those letters on deployment or text messages or, voicemails. So
Yeah.
That's probably an insecurity too. Wondering if your person's gonna leave you.
that's
Because
a
on this
massive
last deployment,
insecurity.
there was at least 2 people going through that for me that I knew of. Out of fucking nowhere, here's a divorce, or I'm unhappy in this relationship.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard to, like, you feel for the person too, and it's understandable. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But then it's
Yeah.
like, that's bad timing.
Yeah.
Really bad timing.
Yeah, and I mean, and so for my wife and I, we obviously, like, when I was deployed, we decided to go our separate ways. We did not stay separated, but like I came back home and I remember telling her, I don't want you here when I come back home.
I feel
And
like I remember that.
yeah, and so I got to the airport and there was nobody there, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to eat these words, like. But then a couple months later, we finally like worked our stuff out. Thank God, right? And she's a great friend as well as a great wife. So that's everybody. No matter how strong you are, sometimes you really do you need this space, and you need to kind of like we never got a divorce. We just got separated mentally for a little while and then came back together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand. So and that must have sucked as well, because like here I am, and I came back from the same deployment that your husband is on, and just in a different area, and I had separated. So that probably did not add to the confidence level of what you were going through. I never thought about that until right now.
No, it's too fucking easy to slip into those really negative like mindsets. And I remember they would do, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they did a deployment briefing for like the spouses of the people that were going to be deploying, or girlfriends or whatever, boyfriends. And they like just kind of were like, hey, when your person's gone, keep in mind you're going to be really sad, and it's going to be really hard, like trying to like prepare you. It was the first and only time I've ever experienced this, and it was your first deployment.
It hasn't happened since.
Mm-mm.
People don't keep trying to prepare you for stuff.
I think the chain of command and the leadership that we had really cared about their people at that point in time.
Yeah.
And they set those things up for everybody. And at the place I was at, that wasn't a normal deployment. We were on a ship. Normally we deployed to Bahrain. It was like a rotation normally.
Yeah.
Well, even at my command, we deploy out on ships, and I have
Legacy.
not had. I've seen the briefs, but I've not had anyone like. Fuck, I think they were like specifically from Fleet and Family.
And it was mandatory too for you and I to both be there.
But basically, they were saying like they're trying to prepare the spouses or the significant others for what it's going to be like when the person's gone and when they come back.
Yeah.
And the lady had said that it's okay to be sad and to let yourself just be depressed and be sad for like a short amount of time, but then you need to get back into your rhythm of things. So that was a positive.
Yeah, that's a huge
that
positive.
I tried to remember, and it was difficult because you just let yourself at least I personally let myself get really caught up in being depressed over it.
Yeah.
And struggling. But somebody tried to be positive. So I mean,
Yeah.
it can be out there. But
Fleeting Family's really helpful with that stuff. I mean, they have marriage retreats and all that stuff for when you come back too. But like I said, it all depends on the leadership putting that out to us. And that one simple thing that that lady said during that brief, she told me this whole entire time she was deployed and I was struggling. Like, just, relax, go lay down, be depressed, accept it, and then get your ass back up and go run or go work out. And
Yeah.
go hang out with Suede,
Yeah. Which we
or
did.
pushed you two together.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think there's much pushing.
I'll let
no,
you guys
there
be
wasn't.
boyfriends.
No, yeah, no, we hit it off. That was. I think this is part of the coolest thing about you being married to a service member is that, for me, I have a harder time connecting to people who have never served, and I think that's most people. Like we if you serve for. I mean, I guess if you want to count the people who only serve for 4 years, like you can, because sometimes where they're at is just so crazy that it's like they truly do have like the genuine experience. But when you've served for a little longer than 4 years, there's just like a mindset that you have by proxy of being in, and so
A more negative mindset.
a more negative mindset,
The
a
fuck
more
this place
fuck
mindset.
this place, or like the willingness to call somebody a pussy even if they're actually not being one.
Yeah.
Like, so you guys have been married for 4 years. I am going to hit 8 years coming up soon. This coming year will be 8 years. And so when you left this last time for deployment, because of COVID and because of all the other stuff, like I was kind of just smack dab stuck right here where you guys are at, because I was supposed to PCS, meaning I was supposed to go to another duty station, but it all got put on hold because of COVID. So Austin and I just spent like pretty much every waking moment around each other. And I think it was fucking awesome. Like,
Dude,
I had
it
a
was
great time.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
Working out almost every day,
Yeah.
cooking food, making pies.
We made pie. Yeah. We worked on motorcycles. We did like every,
Yeah.
You worked on the motorcycle.
yeah, we did everything that we possibly could, within that, the boundaries. So it's really cool because I got to be a part of your family, like even more so than I naturally would have, because usually I would be stationed up in, the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, because of COVID, I was able to stay here for like a couple of days and then go to work for a couple of days, come back here, and, all of that. But, if you were married to a civilian, that relationship would probably still exist, but also be vastly different,
It would be.
Yeah.
I tell people a lot, actually, that I think it's easier to be married to dual military, even though it comes with an insane amount of obstacles and difficulties. I think it's a lot easier. I'll even go as far to say I think it's easier to be married to somebody who has the same job as you. Like, we can, and that's probably just my opinion, but I can come home and I can tell him, this is what happened, this is what the bird's doing, this is what I did, and then we can talk. So it's not like, we can relate on personal things in our lives, we can relate on, deep, shallow things, whatever, but we can also talk about work. I can call him up and be like, I have this question. And he understands if I'm saying, hey, I got to work late because this is what's going on.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what I'm talking about. So he understands, like, okay, this makes sense that this is an issue, and let me even try to help,
Yeah, sometimes I end up calling you on the phone and we troubleshoot the aircraft together. I don't know that it is easier to be dual military. I don't think it's even easier to be single military either, though. Because, I mean, they both come with the exact same set of boundaries there. One person's going to be deployed for half the time. One person's going to be at home half the time, right?
Yeah. So yes and no. Okay.
I get where you can say it's easier because we do understand the ins and outs.
That
So
would
I
be
guess
the easier part.
in that aspect. But the time apart is time apart. Like, I added it up the middle of whenever you left this last time. We had spent like 1 year and 7 months together in 4 years.
Yeah.
A
That was
year,
kind
a
of
year
like
and
a
7 months
kick in the
together.
balls.
That's not apart. It's together. It's not the opposite way around. So that's the tough part for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why being in the military it sucks.
Yeah.
That would be the only reason
Yeah.
why. I'd say if it weren't for you, I'd love my job.
Yeah, I don't take that wrong. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Hey, could you move your mic a little closer?
Yeah, my bad.
a little
I'm getting
bit.
away from
Yeah,
it.
perfect. Thank you.
I have been on the civilian side of a military relationship
Before you were in, right?
before I was in, and then being on this side, I think that's where it's coming like for me, because I've been the person who didn't understand. I've been the person who is like, why can't you call me? You know, why are you MIA for freaking 2 weeks at a fucking time or whatever, you know? And I was probably being ghosted.
It's like
But,
nobody
like,
just
it
goes
was like-
MIA for like 2
it was
weeks.
a lot of back and forth, you know,
Yeah.
because I didn't understand. And then, you know, he would tell me things like, he would try to explain, and it just would go right over my fucking head. Like, I don't get it at all. That's why, me personally, I think being in a dual military relationship has been easier.
Yeah.
Just because
I could see that.
being on that side of things, I can say, okay, now I understand. It's still hard, but I have a better understanding of why we can't talk, or why, you know, we're both really busy, or what a deployment is.
Well, and sometimes relationships need a bit of a break, as awful as that sounds.
That doesn't sound awful. That sounds like smart advice, you know, because
it's helpful. It is sometimes.
Yeah.
It is very detrimental sometimes, but I guess it just depends on where you guys are at together.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, what feels natural for the military couple is not going to be, whether you're dual military or you're not, you know, it's going to be different than what a civilian couple goes through. Because I remember I would see, you know, my wife, she would be looking at Facebook stuff, and she'd get really pissed off, like, oh, so and so's apart for a week, like, and they're complaining about it. Fuck you, like, just fuck you. She's like, you know, because we spent like however many months apart, sometimes just for training, you know, not even a deployment. And, you know, so for us, it was really easy because we got into this really interesting mode of things where it's like, okay, I'm going to leave, I'm going to come back, I'm going to leave, I'm going to come back. And we got used to that. But if it had been turned where she left and I had to stay home, I don't know how I would cope with that, because like, something that I learned about myself in the past couple of years is I do not like to be, I need human contact. And not physical human contact. I need like emotional, conversational type contact all the time. That's just something that I thrive on, you know, and that's just my personality. It's not like I can't be alone, because I like to be alone as well. And I've spent the better part of this year alone, just because of COVID. But, you know, I don't know how I would have dealt with being home consistently, you know, while she was out deployed, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I as much as it might be easier and this is the beauty of perspective, because it's easier for you guys because you both are aware of what it is, you know, and now you both have experienced the flip side, and that's made you both a lot more understanding to each other.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, to me, it's harder to be home. To me, it's much harder to be home. I would take being deployed and you being home.
Dick.
Wait, but I mean, you deal with it a lot better than I do.
I do.
You know, my depression is a bit different in that sense.
I am a functional depressed person.
Let's dive into this topic then.
Yeah.
You are a functional depressed person, and we've heard a little bit about your depression so far. I'd like to hear from you, Austin, and then we can dive back into yours. What is your depression like?
To me, like, if I can't keep myself busy or active, I get so depressed it's not even funny. It's painful, mentally and physically almost. Like, you saw me when she was gone. I was trying to work out or run as much as I could every day.
Yeah, you ran to the point that the doctor told you your legs would literally snap if you kept running.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 10 miles a day.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's not a whole lot, but to me it was. And that helped out. That helped out. When I have an idle mind, it doesn't go anywhere good.
Yeah.
It kind of just rolls idly, and you find yourself staring at a TV and your phone at the same time, not paying attention to either one. One of the most painful feelings in the world is wasting time to me. So that's just a little bit of my depression with it. I mean, I don't know if yours was kind of the same.
Oh God, I am not a motivated enough person to go and work out, go and get up and go do something. I was just able to function in that, just laying around. Like I knew the stuff I had to do, I would do it, and that was the extent of it.
Yeah, so you weren't going like above and beyond.
No, but I could get like, I was able to accept that I was depressed as fuck. That cleaning was stressful to me. You know, the house being dirty was stressful to me. You being away was stressful to me. And like, I would just be in a total funk, but I could like accept that and still keep going without being like, it was almost like I could kind of just ignore it.
Yeah.
Like I felt it, but I could ignore it more than what you've been able to ignore, which I don't think is healthy, but that's just what.
I mean, this is, I'm not going to say anything is healthy or unhealthy. Like, we're just talking about your particular feelings about a subject, you know, like anybody listening, they don't get to say like, oh, they can say whatever the fuck they want. But if somebody were to say like, oh, I wouldn't have handled it like that. Well, I'm glad that you handle it.
They're a stronger person.
Yeah. I'm glad you handled it how you do.
Yeah.
You know?
Good for them.
I don't know. I noticed when I was depressed, I would do much better at work, and I would do everything I could at work to keep myself busy. And then when I would leave work was a real depressing time. You know, that's when I'm at work, I could stay busy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you were like that when I was gone.
Honestly, it feels like it was so long ago. I don't remember. But
yeah.
Yes, because we've had like 3 really different experiences with deployment. Like the first time there was a deployment, he was gone, I was home. And then the second time there was a deployment, I left first, and within a month or so, you were gone. So we were both deployed at the same time.
Yeah.
We've gotten lucky with that stuff too, though, because not everybody's Navy experience with deployments is quite like ours. One of them, I was deployed for 6 months in the desert with Wi-Fi in a 5-star hotel.
That's true.
And we could talk every day because you had a ship
I was on
that had
like a civilian run ship,
yeah,
right?
And we could talk every day. So that deployment felt like a breeze.
Yeah.
There were some tough times.
And then this last one, I could talk every day just about, for the most part, until we died in the water. But you know, I would say we are probably fortunate that we could talk as much as we did, and that our deployments weren't nearly as long as maybe for the Army. So
well, okay, so like the dick measuring competition that everybody likes to get in, you know, like I hate it. I think it's stupid because first of all, we're not in the same war that we're in the same war, right? But we're not in the same type of war that we were back in like 2000. Okay, 2003, 2005, even 2009. It's fucking 2020 and the war is very different now. So like everybody's idea of deployment is changed quite a bit. Because there are guys that I know that they tell me like that they get really pissed off at the guy that, you know, he's only served for like 3 or 4 years and then he goes to the VA and he gets like all these benefits and stuff. And it's like, well, you know, you could be mad or you could understand that this person learned from the mistakes that were made by your generation and realized that they needed to make sure that all of their illnesses, ailments, you know, their history, physical history and emotional history is documented, you know? So comparing like the Army to the Navy to the Air Force to the Marines, it's all very different. Like when I was deployed with 2 Marines. I was deployed with Air Force. I was deployed with the Australian Special Forces and, you know, SF and the Rangers. And I just happened to be in an area that was like, you know, heavily populated by like every country's special forces. So we were like the lowest ranking people in that whole area. Like the 82nd is not that special. Like, cool, we jump out of planes, but so did every other country that was there, you know, and their actual special forces, or they are special of some kind. And there were a lot of contractors. So my deployment could be looked at as a breeze too, but it was a breeze until the one moment that wasn't, it was like, oh my God, like somebody could have just died. Somebody just did get hurt. That I could have pulled a trigger. Somebody could have been shot by me, you know, like, or the one day that there was incoming and I was nowhere near shelter. Like, you know, I don't care who you are or what you think that your experience is. Every experience is so individual, and comparing our experiences in a way of demeaning each other, I think is really what leads to the next podcast that you and I are actually going to do. which is about suicide. So I don't want to ever say that my experience is better than yours or yours is better than mine. They're different.
Oh yeah.
They're completely different. And let's thank whatever fucking God is out there that right now we're not in a time and a place where all of our friends are dying, and then 10 years from now everybody's committing suicide. Let's hope that that's not the case, because I mean, history just repeats itself, and that's the last thing that we want. I don't want to demean anybody for their experience.
Oh God, no.
Not to get on a high horse here, but
You get off your high horse.
yeah, I'm off of it. So anyway, that being said, the experiences of deployment are different. The pain is still real.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
each one has had its very hard obstacles.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the tricky part too, is we haven't repeated a deployment situation yet where, okay, this is the second time that I'm home, so now I know what it's like to be home again. So we've had 3 different experiences. So it's kind of like it's hard to get into like a rhythm of, all right, he's gone again, I'm home again, I already know the routine, I already know this is what I don't want to do that I did last time. Now it's been 2 deployments for me down, if you can count the last one as a deployment.
Yeah.
And
2 for
now the next, you might repeat if they send me out again.
Maybe it's hard to find that, like, as the Army would call it, battle rhythm. Like it's set in
Look at you
stone
knowing shit.
thing. Hey,
It's like you guys are
I listen to
friends.
you guys every once in a while. No, but it's hard to fall into that, especially. It's easy on deployment. Once again, it's easy to fall into that battle rhythm again on deployment, because you have a schedule.
Yes.
When you're home, you don't have a schedule. Your schedule is on your own time,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
But-
So, okay. So one of the cool things about watching your marriage, because this is all about the dual military marriage, and this is about marriage in general. Like, there's a little bug in here. Okay, well, all right. So I'll start from somewhere else. So, I remember that I had been married for a couple of years, and I came to your guys' first apartment. Cassie and I came to your first apartment, and I remember you guys didn't have anything. Like
that was a fun time.
and
it was
exactly
the most fun.
that was probably the most fun time for you guys. And I remember Cassie and I were like, what can we give them to like help them on their way? Like, because we had been at that point too, where we had nothing. We literally had an apartment. It was 4 walls. Like that's all we had. And I think that's how most relationships start. You got nothing and you have to build up from there.
Yeah.
And so we gave you guys like a coffee table and a couple of side tables and things. Yeah. I see it right over there.
Still have it.
And I remember telling you, Austin, I think, I was like, and I don't think you cared at the time, and I'm kind of just curious about what your thoughts are on it now, but like, I remember telling you specifically, enjoy this time because you're never going to have this again.
I thought of it a lot. We talk about it a lot, especially because we like looking back on our relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, that helps a lot too, but we were going to the Dollar Tree, getting bags of flour and chicken broth to eat chicken dumplings every single night of the week.
Yeah. No, it
And
was.
we would spend $2 on a meal.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that the dollar store sold food like that until like needing to go there.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we look back on it, and that was so much fun. Like,
It
it
was.
sounds dumb and it sounds shitty, but that was high quality fun right there.
Yeah, we had gotten a table off of Craigslist, but we were so used to not using the table since we didn't have one to begin with that we just continued to sit on the counter and eat.
Yeah, we sat on the
Like-
counter and ate every single
Yeah.
night. The exact same thing, pretty
Yeah.
much.
No, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I was really proud too once we got a couch.
Oh yeah.
Our one couch.
Oh my God. I remember.
The only one.
I think it was the same time that Cassie and I went over there, and you guys, it was around Christmas time.
Mhm.
Oh, shut up.
It was really, really sweet.
Don't make fun of me for what I
I'm
think you're
not.
gonna make
I'm
fun
not
of me
making fun
for.
of you at all. I think
Tell
it's-
the story though.
I'm telling the story. Okay, so we went over there, and you were so proud of your little apartment, and then you're like, look, we don't even have money for presents, but I wrapped the boxes.
I did, but you know what? Everyone just laughed at me for that, and it just was like,
It's not that they're
It was
laughing
all
at you.
for show,
No, that's the thing.
No,
Nobody's
it was just
laughing at
cute.
you. It's just that we all understand what it's been like
yeah,
Yeah.
to be in that same position where you're just so happy to have like your little home and your little marriage and it's a little tiny, nuclear family, and you're about to start your journey, and that's like the beauty of it. And so, like, what if you guys had listened to all the negativity that came your way? Because I remember it. I remember the negativity.
Yeah.
And it's like seeing where you guys started and knowing where you're at now. Like, I mean, every marriage has its issues, and Alex, I mean, I love you to death, but you're fucking crazy sometimes, and so is Austin.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just a part of a marriage. Like, it's the true depth of your personality comes out in front of another person. And
Yeah.
it's like, what if you had listened to all the haters and had not made that decision yourselves? I mean, because you did something I didn't expect you to do, which was to not listen to your family. You didn't listen to us. I'm pretty sure I said, I don't know about that, man. Like, you want to be married? I don't know about that. And I'm glad you didn't listen.
Yeah.
I really am.
I'm glad I didn't listen to any of the negativity
Yeah.
and advice that people had given me. It was hard.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's funny because we had been married for a really short period of time, and people were still giving him shit and putting shit in his head. And there was like one night we were watching TV or something, and he started talking about how like he should have gotten a prenup, and I was like super offended. I was like, "What did you just say?"
It's not like I had anything to lose
I know, like,
at the point in time.
You're gonna take my couch, like,
Yeah.
fuck?
You're gonna take my
But-
couch and the strand of Christmas lights we
But
got
you,
for the screen?
you hear a lot that people like, and I've heard this more about girls, but it's probably just because I'm a girl hearing it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's what I focused more on. But I heard a lot about the spouse just taking the person for what they had for all their money and just bounced,
Yeah.
And he was hearing the same thing and getting told like, oh, she could just take your money. She can, and fucking what? E4 pay? What the
Yeah,
fuck is that?
maybe a couple $100 if that.
Yeah.
You
but,
could take all my debt if you wanted it.
Yeah. But no, we heard that a lot, and it like really hurt when he told me that he thought maybe that he should have done a prenup.
Mm.
And I was like, I had to think about it. I had to like kind of just like mull it over of like what the fear was, and try to like reassure you like, I'm not going to take you for what you're worth, but I do know of people who've done that.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, that whether you're in the military or not and you're in a relationship, a marriage, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
A really scary thing that they harp on a lot for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
I mean, being left high and dry with your heart, let alone having nothing else, that's a pretty scary thing.
It is. And that brings up the question of like, how do you search essentially for a partner that's not going to do that? Well, I don't know if there's really a way to search for a partner who's not going to do that, but what I can say is personality means a lot.
Mhm.
And if you are a person who has not worked on yourself, you are not going to attract anyone who has also worked on themselves. Like you grasp or you get what you are putting out there, for the world. And knowing like our upbringing, knowing all three of us, knowing like, what we all have come from and things like that, I would say that both of our families, we've witnessed and felt enough pain from like the divorce proceedings to parents fighting over each other to one parent wanting to make the other suffer. Like we all three know that feeling really, really well. And so, I feel like when you do go through that kind of pain, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you never want to hurt anybody like that.
Yeah, I think actually that's probably a big factor for us in how we see marriage, seeing all the negative shit from our families and how the parents treated each other. And I told him before we got married, before it was really even much of a conversation, that if I got married, I was going to stay married. I wasn't going to get divorced. So if I married somebody, that person had to have like major potential.
Well, that and that we were going to work on any issues that we had.
Yeah.
And not that divorce wasn't an option, but just that we want to do everything possible before considering that option,
Yeah. Unless there's abuse or cheating,
Yeah.
like I would do everything in my power to work on whatever the issue was.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helped us. And I don't know that a lot of people can relate to that. I don't know. I can't speak for anybody but just us two.
Yeah.
And that really helped us in our hard times and the obstacles and whatever the military threw at us, whatever our personal lives threw at us, like to try to make it work and stick it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, sometimes you feel like you're trying to bob and weave, arguments and things like that, and it's not always the best thing to do, especially
No.
in the
sometimes
military.
it's not.
No, sometimes.
I like to consider, like, for the two of you, this is actually the thought that I had earlier. I would consider marriage, and this is my personal view. We were all working on picking out like what the intro for this video was going to be, and we came across two dudes boxing, and we were like, that is it, because marriage, and for my own marriage, for your guys' marriage, like, it really is like sparring with a partner. Like you're in the ring and you know that you're going to punch each other in the face, but that it's, you don't really mean any harm. And that is, I think, the best way to look at a military marriage. Whether you're dual military or not, that is the military marriage. It's just sparring with your partner and figuring out what works best and how you can make your partner stronger and how they can make you stronger. And at the end of the day, you're both going to be fighters, not going up against each other,
Right.
but going up against everybody else.
Against the world.
Yeah. And being stronger because of that,
I can agree with that.
Yeah. Definitely.
It was a good choice. A good
Intro.
what would you say, metaphor or like?
Yeah, definitely. Good metaphor.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the deployments. We've talked about the negativity. We've talked about, starting from nothing and kind of like getting to where you're at now. And we've even talked about how you guys have been married for 4 years, but you've really only been like physically together for like a year and some change. So if you had to do it again, I know people like to say that they wouldn't change anything, and I'm sure that you wouldn't want to change anything. But if you really could make some better decisions about the situations, what would be some of the things, like for other people who are in this same situation? What would you have wanted to do better to be better to your spouse?
Okay, so for me, I would have stayed on a shore and sea rotation because that gives you, I think, the most time with each other. There's a much better routine that you can develop, and it's just going to be, if I had done that, I feel like, because we're on a shore and sea rotation now. So
And what does that mean exactly? That you're both on shore?
No, I deploy, he
I'm on
doesn't.
shore.
So
Okay.
we're rotating. So that's what we're doing now.
Gotcha,
And I
okay.
see that we've spent more time together now. So I would, if I
Yeah.
could change anything, I would have changed that. I probably would have, if I could change anything, I probably would have started going to therapy early on. Because I know that through a lot of the shit, I did not have the coping mechanisms. And I think that probably could have helped our relationship a lot.
Are you in therapy now?
No, I'm still procrastinating on it. But we're talking about if I went back, not right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have started that back then.
Sounds like you should start now too.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not opposed to it. Just if, like, in the starting of a relationship, if I could have had coping mechanisms specific to the deployments,
Yeah.
and if I had stayed on the rotation, I didn't listen. I've had good experiences from us being on the same rotation, even, but I think that it probably would have been a little smoother if I had stayed on the opposite rotation.
Yeah.
But that's what I'd change.
I guess for me, working on tuning out everybody else's bullshit that they want to say and speak about, and how their relationship's gone and how everybody else around them act and do things. And I would also say therapy, and that's something that you and I have talked about a lot. Is like you put a like really good analogy to it, is like these helicopters that you guys work on. If you guys don't upkeep them and maintain them, they're gonna fall apart, right? And I think that's true for a relationship too, because it's not always as easy as working it out yourselves, and it's really hard to see where you could be wrong in certain things,
Yeah.
and it's easier when somebody else is willing to teach you and give you tools. And I tell her all the time is like, I don't have the tools for a lot of things. I like to try to find the tools myself. And I can't find all of them. Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it. Therapy's a big deal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people are going to do what they think is right and maybe come across some difficult obstacles. But if your person is right for you and you're right for them and you love that person, then you're going to work on it.
Yeah.
And do your best. Marriage in general is hard. It really doesn't change because you're dual military or you're single military or just two civilians married. Like, marriage is fucking hard.
Yeah.
It takes work no matter where you're at. As long as you're willing to put in that work, then you'll get somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think the therapy thing is a huge one that would be beneficial for most people, you know, because a lot of times when you're in that moment of the marriage, you're not even realizing, like, it's knowledge that you're literally just not aware of.
Yeah.
You know, there have been so many times for myself even where I'm talking to my therapist, because I advocate therapy like you would not believe. I just do. But there have been so many times where I'll be talking about something and I'm like, oh yeah, my wife is the problem and blah, blah, blah. And then the therapist is like, you don't think maybe that, like, you know, it might stem from a familial problem, or it might stem from something else, or, you know, you might just be, you take it this way because you've been programmed to feel this way. And so, you know, you're not even giving your partner like the amount of space that they need to just exist as a human being without your perception. And so, you know, I think that therapy is a huge deal for everybody. I really do. Individual therapy and marriage counseling, you know.
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So what else, if anything?
Oh, I don't know. I can't really.
I would say the takeaway from this is, if you are young and in the military and you want to get married, or you find somebody you love, let that be your love and nobody else's. And don't listen to everybody. It's not a good thing. There can be helpful people, but you definitely should pick and choose.
Yeah, I still do think, though, that people shouldn't rush into getting married. I don't think we rushed into it.
I think that could be argued.
Maybe. Well, where we're at now, I don't feel like we rushed
No,
into it. I feel like everything was like at the right time.
We've grown really well.
But I do think that it should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
If you're getting married in general, it should be taken seriously. Fucking seek out people. Because, I mean, like, you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff, but also I would say try to find those people too. Like, look for the good couples. Look for the dual military couples, the single military couples, whatever. Ask questions. I wish I had asked more questions, and I wish that I had really pushed for the answers that I needed, you know, and the help that I needed.
Yeah.
Because it was rocky in the beginning. So I think that questions are good. Don't take everything that you hear as truth, you know. Also, like, I feel like I got a lot of stuff out of my system pretty young.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of craziness, a lot of rowdiness. But if you don't feel like you did, you know, don't get married. That would be my advice. It wouldn't be that you have to stick to that, but know who you are as a person. Be comfortable with who you are as a person before getting in a relationship like that with somebody else. Because the last thing, I'm not even gonna say the last thing, you don't want to resent that person because you aren't being crazy and living that, you know, wild life that you missed out on. So I think everyone should fucking experience being by themselves. I think everyone should experience just get that fucking shit out of your system.
Yeah.
Be with who you want to be with, hook up with who you want to hook up with, get all that out, because there's no room for that in a healthy marriage.
No, there's not.
So I think that if you haven't lived that life, even if you think you don't want to or need to, consider that before getting married. Consider, am I getting married because I want to get out of the barracks? Am I getting married because I want that BAH? Maybe that'll work, you know? If there isn't love and that's not part of why you're doing it, I don't know how well it would work. But those are things to consider. Like, what are you getting married for?
Yeah,
You know?
definitely.
In our case, it was a dog.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, there's a lot to consider before you get married when you're in the military.
Yeah.
And that I do understand why people did have that mindset of, is it for money? Is it for, being out of the barracks? Are you just tired of the barracks?
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely recommend that if anyone's going to get married in the military, like I said, consider the life you've lived. Do you want more than a married life? Do you want out of the barracks? Like, what are your reasons? And then talk about it.
It's one of those cases where we talk about it a lot. It'd be really good to be painfully aware of your actions in that scenario.
Yeah. That would be my advice. But like I've said in this thing, it's just words. These people need to, if anyone is in this situation, they need to get in their own head and think it through and not listen to what everyone else has to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Go to therapy.
If that's in the cards,
Go to therapy. Think about who you are, what you want, what your motivations are.
Yeah.
Opposites, as much as we say they attract, they are attractive for a one night stand or maybe a few months, but opposites are not attractive for a long period of time. It's just not the case. Like you two are a great example of the differences between your marriage and what I've been married as. It's like, you guys have sowed your wild seeds and done what you wanted to do. And whereas my marriage is, we like to be calm and collected and cool. And then we go fucking crazy, and we just go balls to the freaking walls. And then we go back to being cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
And we both needed that. We've always needed that. So every marriage is completely different.
Yeah.
Every marriage is different. But opposites do not really attract long term.
I think you need to have your base morals and goals should be pretty aligned.
Yeah. And we were talking about that too.
Yeah. In
morals
that sense,
and truths.
Yeah. In that sense, opposites do not attract.
Yeah. Which is interesting because you're from California. We are from California and you're from Indiana. And, just saying California and Indiana, there's a lot of differences, but that's a huge, huge difference just in and of itself. Like, what that consists of and what that means for everybody. So I agree. And I think that you two have done a really wonderful job of making yourselves equally yoked is what I'll call it, or just, allowing grace as much as you can. Nobody's fucking perfect. Nobody.
Mm-mm.
But anything else that you'd like to add to this that anybody should know about dual military marriage?
It's easier if you try to grow together, not grow apart.
That's right. Even if you're deployed, it is possible to grow together. Just that's something a decision you have to make.
It is a decision.
And something you have to work on doing. But I think grow together. Don't grow separately, grow together. And change is okay.
Yeah. Change is okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I really am.
It definitely is.
I am. I'm glad to hear both of you say that. Well, I think that we've reached a pretty good point where we've, kind of discussed all of the dual military stuff. And of course, this is one of those topics that a lot of people have a lot to say about, but I'm not interested in everybody's perspective. I'm interested in yours. And so thank you for doing this podcast with me and for opening your marriage up a little bit for people to see, the more authentic and unique portions of you. Because who is sitting in front of me right now are not the same people who go to work and work in the military every single day. Like, this is who you guys really are. A very loving, devoted couple that has seen ups and downs and will continue to make it through. And I have no doubt that you guys will be a 30, 40, however long you guys live marriage. I really don't doubt that at all. But you guys are so sweet.
How cute.
I know, right? I love the both of you. I really do. So, all right.
Get off of me.
Well, you heard it here. This is Swayed Against the Grain. I was with Austin and Alex, and they're both in the Navy, and they're both willing to share some insight about their marriage being dual military. So thank you for both of you coming on. I appreciate the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're out.